Hello, everybody. I'm pretty sure I'm live. I'm working with my backup camera, so I'll apologize in advance. And I'm dealing with candy type things that are necessary for other type things. So audio may sound weird, but pretty sure it sounds clear if nothing else. I have a couple topics I'm going to go through real fast. I have to do this at the top of the hour, though, because I want to make sure I get it out of the way because I have been negligent in doing so. So, cryptotalkradio.net, as I've called out before, main site we have. What I would ask is if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback, and you missed the live, and that's okay if you do, please leave them in the comments down below here, or you can leave them at the contact form at cryptotalkradio.net. We do read each and every one of those, and we look forward to hearing from you as far as any feedback you may have. Jumping right in now. You may have noticed that there's been some intermittent green. And by intermittent green, I mean that green comes and goes kind of like the weather. And it doesn't stay around for very long. And nobody really knows what's going to happen in the future. And this is unfortunately a symptom of the times, right? What you may not be aware is that there are all these other factors playing into that. And I theorize a lot of that has to do with the inflation, most notably, but also the current people in the United States government, because as I've said on the podcast at cryptotalkradio.net, that arguably, not all, that's not fair, the vast majority of international government entities kind of play follow the leader with the United States. To my frustration, they do, to the point that we even change how people dress, and that drives me even further nuts because now you see people walking around with the skinny jeans and everything else. Arguably, our trends and our laws and everything that we do influencing others just drives me nuts. I can't do anything about it. I'm just one man band. Heath Slater, WWE. So with cryptocurrency now, of course, the big chatter is whatever regulations are going to be passed in light of the scams that have happened. We saw what happened with Celsius. We saw what happened with Voyager. We saw what happened with all these different organizations that fancy themselves to be banks, and really all they're doing is setting themselves up for failure in the long run. Well, Celsius did right. And the interesting story behind that is I was having a chat. I mentioned on the podcast, I had a chat with somebody, and they were pretty much trashing Celsius, saying that their tool was going to be better than Celsius, and Celsius just did it wrong and all this jazz. And the fact is, I maintained, and still do, that Celsius, of the ones doing that same, Celsius is the biggest, the baddest. They don't have anything close, competition-wise. So, as I'm watching now Celsius pay back the loan, and they're arguably the first to actually do it, as far as I can tell, that's huge. It's huge. I've not seen a company get that bad insolvent, that bad down in the weeds, and then be able to recover and recoup. I only ever have I been able to see that. And so I was inspired, at least. I think there's something there. But we still see these other ones pop up where all of them have the same thing, right? It's finance in the end of the name. Or they offer products that are banking related, which drives me nuts. Something they're doing is finance related, which is just setting themselves up for failure, long run, my opinion. And that's only my opinion. They can emphatically disagree with me. Others can emphatically disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. I'm just saying, for me, I don't agree with it. Never will, never have. So now I'm looking at the other tokens, right? Because we get the green because things are looking up. Celsius pay back the loan, Bitcoin's coming back up, and we see all these things. Now I'm looking at the other tokens, and I'm seeing that some of them are still struggling. Some of them are still having a hard time recovering the position they once had. And when I look at why, there are certain basic things that are consistent across the board with each and every one of these. And I can see a pattern, or as Tim Bradley says, a pattern of the ones that are struggling and why they're struggling. Note on my chart here, I've got HODL token up. Of course, I did coverage with HODL token on the podcast, and we have released up to 4 parts of that coverage to the YouTube channel. People on the podcast side get the full audio in one shot. People on the YouTube side have to wait a little bit. But HODL token, the CEO, Mr. Adam Roberts, he talked about a lot of different things that they're building in order to not only strengthen the value of the project, but also to future state, set them on the path for success coming out of the bear period. Well, I've been then following it because I needed to make sure, number one, the things he said come to pass. Number two, the things of the past are no longer an issue, and I don't anticipate them being an issue. So then as I look at this business, right, with their chart, I see that something that they're doing is certainly having a positive effect. They're going on certainly a run upward, trending upward, and then they had this sharp jump up here. Now, of course, one thing I called out in my initial coverage was that their supply might be a challenge for them, because it seems like every token that has the unrealistic supplies, the quadrillions, quintillions supply, struggles. They have a hard time to really deal with it. And their supply even now is significant. But I didn't talk about that on the podcast because he had talked about different things they're doing, the play to earn, the burn mechanics, the staking, all the things that they're doing that are designed to help burn the supply down, which means I have to give them time. I have to be patient, and I can't just jump right into it. I have to watch it over time and see if that comes to fruition. Are they able to basically debunk the common narrative that the extended supply is pretty much a death knell? If you look at other projects like Terrarium, which gets unreasonable levels of hype in places, it has an unreasonable level of supply. It's not able to get significant growth. Lily Finance has an unreasonable supply, as even though it has a good utility, it's not able to get that growth. Like, I've not seen a single token outside of SHIB, and we know what happened there, that's been able to have the significant supply but also succeed long term. It's not something I've seen, in my opinion. Maybe somebody else sees it. I don't. If you know of one, point it out to me, please, because I'd love to take a look at it, but I haven't seen one. So HODL tokens graph looks actually pretty dang good in terms of their momentum going forward over time. In the short term, part of this is, of course, the price movement of Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB. Part of this is some of the mechanics they have in there, and a very low amount of sell pressure. So they have a very good amount of buy pressure, low amount of sell pressure. So there's a number of different things playing into factor. Well, then I switched over to Seifu by the car salesman. And Seifu has a minor bit of jump. And I had a diehard come back and say, well, you're wrong about Seifu. Seifu's succeeding. Seifu's not succeeding because, remember, Seifu peaked at $330 a token. We're nowhere close to that at all. So until we're at least around 200 some odd, I can probably give you 200. Until you're anywhere near that, it's not where anywhere close to where it was. What he's reacting to is the fact that it had minor ups and that it's trending somewhat upward after hitting this bottom. I understand that. However, again, we have to take into consideration all points factor. There's still some sell pressure. It's not as significant as it was, so there's not the excessive amounts of dump, and there's some buy pressure coming in. The problem with Seifu is they printed supply. Because they printed supply, as I said in my various coverages, it's going to be harder for them to get back to where they were because they printed supply. There's more supply that has to be consumed by the transactions now than there would have been, like, for example, when it first launched and it only had 350,000 tokens, which is why it got to that significant. I said it depends on the sell pressure because you know that there's probably whales sitting on major bags because they stacked bags and they're sitting on it waiting for it to go back up so they can dump bags again. This is cyclical. So in order to visualize what I'm talking about, I changed my chart to a 4-hour chart. And if you notice here, the 4-hour chart shows me that we had that unreasonable pump. This is what it had, basically the 350,000 token supply. It had near nothing supply, extremely constrained supply. It then started to do this pump and dump deal. And most of this was around the rebase. The rebase was trying to do what it was trying to do to persist the value. At some point, the rebase can only do so much, and then it starts to go down. Also, what was happening during this time was the printing of tokens. So you have a stacked effect. And I'm not isolating them. A lot of the tokens that have rebase do the same thing because you have to, because the rebase is dependent on printed supply. So we knew that that was going to be a thing. What I think derailed specifically Seifu is, again, you need buy pressure to get back into the token to bring it back up to a state. That buy pressure isn't there yet, not the institutional buy pressure. Thus, if you look at the 4-hour, you can see that there's very little in terms of significant movement, even though it's got decent amounts of buy, like 130 BNB buy is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. You know, you get 1,000 Seifu for that though, but it's a lot of money on that much BNB. But remember, BNB is roughly half where it was before, number one. Number two, you didn't really get very much Seifu for that amount of BNB, even though the price is at rock bottom. Now, part of that is the supply. Part of that is simply at current pricing, the BNB, it's not going far enough for you, which is why I recommend in my various coverages to simply focus on the core token, stack however much you want to help you buy into projects that you believe in, which is probably what that person that did the 130 BNB did. They just stacked up BNB off the dip, and then they're using it to buy into whatever projects that they want to do. I think that's a decent strategy as long as it's a project you believe in. All I'm saying is that Seifu right now is nowhere close to where it should be in terms of success. Success for me for that project based on where it was, based on the chart. So if you go by averages, right, I'm looking at somewhere around $200 as that would be recovery level. You're nowhere close to that, not even close. Once it gets close to about a $200, then you can start talking about, okay, now where does it go here? Do you see another bull run? What does the supply look like? How does the burn play in? And then you can do an analysis and see what that all looks like. I don't think it's there yet. Titano's still declining. And that's, you know, I don't know the specifics behind Titano declining. I do know its contract is garbage. That I do know. I can't tell you why it's garbage, but it's garbage. You know, pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump, down, da, 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 da. And then, of course, it's just, you know, it's normal traffic. There's nothing wrong with the traffic itself. It's just there's no, you know, pump and dump. Da, 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 da. Never seen anything like this, you know, this bad. I've never seen anything this bad. So I'm saying in summary, the price of BNB is playing a factor. Sentiment's playing a factor. What people have and they're dumping off plays factors. A lot of factors. We can't call out success. It's too early, too premature, and I would not be inclined to do so. So I'm going to switch gears because I know there are some that may be interested in LIBERA. I had a person, I think his name's Dion, person who chimed in saying, you know, LIBERA's, it's jumping, it's positive. I want to be sure that I'm clear, and I'm not trying to trash it. I'm just calling out the facts of what it is. Right now, LIBERA is down. It doesn't seem so when you look at the graph. However, again, as I called out for DigiFinex on the other video, LIBERA peaked at like $270 per token. It's trending upward. That's a positive sign. However, I'm not sold that anything that the team is doing is significantly contributing to this. I believe that what's really happening with LIBERA, because if you notice, I still have sell, 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 sell. People are selling off, and some of this is normal. They actually have the miner, and it encourages you to do some of this. So this isn't abnormal. My point is, what I believe happening based on the visual, you know, the line where it's trades sideways and then does this and trade, da, da, da. I believe what's really happening in LIBERA specifically is it's benefiting from some of the temporary price movement. If you notice the volume, and this is the wrap BNB on buy swap, which is the primary way they tell you to buy it, the 24-hour volume is $2. Well, that's kind of low, I would say. And because it's the primary where they tell you to buy it. Well, why would it be only $2? That's kind of weird. Well, if you look at the pooled BNB, it's down. It's down under 1 wrapped BNB. That's a bit scary. And I suspect that what's happening is that they're shifting stuff around. They're making some changes under the hood. Can't say for a fact, but I suspect that's what's happening. Either that or they're not wrapping the BNB once they, you know, get purchase buys and sells. They're not wrapping the BNB. So then I took a look at some of the other pairs, like the Binance USD pair, which is the primary pair. And the volume is 24,000, which is still not great, but it's certainly better than, a couple bucks. And here I see a more normal graph, but here I also see that, yes, it was $2.80 per token. And that's really the target that I should be striving for that I'm not at yet. And it's somewhat trending upward. So the fact that this pool has all the value that I would expect it to have and Wrap BNB doesn't tells me that what they may be doing is they may be just simply stabling everything. That would then explain possibly some of the positive price movement we see if they're purposely stabling everything. It's a smart strategy. I question, though, why it wasn't that way to begin with, because when things launch, right, and you have it against a core token and that core token's jumping, you're benefiting from the positive price movement of that other token in the liquidity pool. So it's possible that, I guess what I'm saying is that many of these tokens might have been pulling some smoke and mirrors on people because it's the illusion of positive value. If you have a token paired to Ethereum, at the time Ethereum's like $4,000 or $4,800 per token. Well, that's going to look way better than if you pair it to Ethereum when Ethereum's down to $1,000 or $900. So I'm saying that many of these tokens, what we're seeing is simply the real price of a thing. And that there was not an inflation, but kind of inflated perception of the value of everything because they were purposely paired to core tokens that were already inflated into themselves. And by going stable, it forces it to be kind of this true value situation. It's an intriguing thought, and I think it bears doing some more digging. Now, other tokens like Hex, right? Hex has always been pretty much predominantly paired to stable coins. And if you look at Hex's chart, Hex went down, but it was steady. It was a steady decrease. And Hex never crapped. It never crashed. It never died completely. It's been steady. It was one of the few that was always only ever paired largely to stable coins. And so now I, as an investor, have to rethink and take a double take and say, maybe there was some okie doke going on here where you purposely paired to inflated things to give an inflated sense of value. And that's what's really the problem here. And so now I am rethinking everything in the portfolio for that sensibility of, okay, what are you paired to? What is your liquidity strategy and why? And are you explaining it? And if I see that you are starting with an inflated something in the pair, I might be a little bit more skeptical versus stable coins in the pair. Very interesting thought that was inspired by seeing LIBERA's price movement. However, this person, as they call out that LIBERA it's up, it's not up because LIBERA's peak is $2.70 some odd cents per token. So we're not there yet. It's trending up. That's fine. But I'm not sold on the idea that it's anything other than the changing over to a stable coin focus, number one. And number two, the natural activities that are happening with LIBERA because it's on one exchange. It's still not on LBank as far as I know. So I don't see the volume, which that's what matters to me. I want to see higher volume. I want to see that it goes faster. I want to see that things happen better. I want to see that more happens. I don't see that happening yet. Till I get there, I'm not going to call it and say that it's back because it's not close. Hopefully it'll get there, but right now we're not there yet. So then I looked at LIBERA, which unfortunately has been nigh side of abandoned. And I know that they said that it's not true. It's true as long as there's not dedicated attention to it. There's dedicated attention to the LIBERA. There's not dedicated attention to LIBERA. So I consider it nigh side of abandoned. And the chart seems to confirm that. LIBERA, though, has arguably more loyalty than the others in the ecosystem. It still has 12,000 in daily volume. That's not high, but it's not terrible. But its market cap is a fraction of LIBERA. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you looked at, this is the LIBERA dashboard. And many people don't realize that the dashboard's here. Now, here's the problem. They've redesigned the web somewhat. However, only for computers. So the mobile web doesn't look any different. It's the same as what it was, but the web for the computers looks all fancy and all this. And not many people go to the dashboard because they don't give you a reason to. But the dashboard is very telling. Down here, they have the widget for the automatic hyperburn, right? This is here on LIBERA, and it's here on FLIBERA. What I want to point out on the FLIBERA, so this is the FLIBERA app / dashboard. Notice this is the interface that you see on the mobile side with sidebar, whereas on the computer side, you see up across the top and it's cleaner. They haven't fixed other stuff, but it's at least cleaner. Well, the one thing I want to point out, I had a user ask me, I think it was Henrio, was asking about, or maybe Ashish, about FLIBERA, and they didn't know about it, and that's because the team didn't. I don't know why that happened. That's weird. All right, that was weird. Don't know why that happened. YouTube says it's having issues. Let me know if you run into any problems, because it's only YouTube. Twitch seems to keep chugging. That inspires me to go and hit this button. So where I was saying is LIBERA and FLIBERA, if you look at their dashboards, automatic hyperburn on LIBERA says you got 14 billion, just shy of 15 billion that has been burned. And it says that that's 20% of the total supply, right? So if it's 20% of the total supply, that means that your supply of LIBERA, total supply, is somewhere shy of about 100 billion. It launched at about 10 billion. If you look at FLIBERA, in its auto hyperburn, total burn is 1.2 billion, which is 15% of supply. So here, 20% is 10 times on the LIBERA side, which means about 100 billion. FLIBERA still has in its total supply roughly about the 10 billion number of total supply. Since it has the 10 billion in total supply, it has a better price movement overall than LIBERA, even though they've already changed the APY, they've already decreased the APY. It actually doesn't matter because of the constrained supply. The rewards accrual is still significantly better than you get on the Binance side for FLIBERA, which is bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre, but it makes sense when you think about it from the supply perspective. What it also means, though, is because there's so much excess supply on LIBERA, and chances are, if you look at LIBERA, and I go into the back end side, earn, bank. So the amount locked in there is about 7 billion is locked, meaning cannot be, it's there. Rewarded means it was given to people, it's 4 billion, but we don't know if it was sold, locked, whatever. We don't know what happened there. And then circulation, just shy of 7 billion. So right there, you're already over the 10 billion. But now you have this other population, right? So if I've got, this is 17 billion that we are aware of. 17 billion we're aware of. We've got this other 83 billion somewhere, and we have to account for it. If the other 83 billion is not in circulation, then they should be able to burn it, we would think. However, when you look at the dashboard for this business, if the burn has to date only done 20%, and this thing's been live for 5 months, I think you can do the math on how long that would take to chew through the rest for LIBERA. And it's unfortunate because, again, I care about LIBERA. I don't care about LIBERA today. I might care about it later. I do own some LIBERA, but it's not my focus. LIBERA is because LIBERA can't exist without LIBERA succeeding. So I watch it and say, okay, that is what it is, but there's not really much I can do about it because of the uncertainty of this business. So I'm not trashing the team or what they're doing. They're going full throttle on the miner, as I said, which is why I question why Crypto Talk Radio doesn't know what he's talking about. But they're going full throttle on it. They're doing what they need to do with it, and it'll be what it's going to be. I think in the long term, something will happen positive. I'm saying that right now, it's all in LIBERA. And while the LIBERA miner has, it has an audience, because it was going to, of the people that care about that kind of thing, it has an audience, and that's fine. But again, I'm not a fan. I'm not really sold long term because their own documents told me this isn't the right answer. So one has to be wrong. I don't know which it is, but we have to watch it, wait, and see what happens there. In summary, I have the same number of tokens in FLIBERO that I have in LIBERO, Binance, and yet the rewards I get on FLIBERO are 5 times what I get on Binance LIBERO, even though I have the same number of tokens because of a constrained supply. So I'll extend this because they've cut down on the emissions, but it doesn't matter because the supply is still constrained. They didn't create excess supply. FLIBERO for me might actually turn into something. It might actually be the future. It might be, unless they jack it up. I didn't look at the Dow recently. Yeah. So they just said they're going to reduce the emission, which I think they've already done that because the API has been changed. And they're going to, set up FLIBERA, which won't have any negative effect because the supply is constrained. So they might print a bunch of FLIBERO to make FLIBERA a thing, or pull it out of liquidity again like they did with LIBERO. I don't know. But right now, today, it is arguably the superior. We'll have to see what happens there. I don't have an answer on that one. I don't know if you've been watching on the Bitcoin side. So Bitcoin, there's a theory that it's making a comeback. I actually disagree that it's making a comeback, but I could be wrong. I said Q3. We are in Q3. I don't think it's time yet. In my opinion, I think more time has to pass before we know that. But I do think that there is an opportunity for people to get in, and we have to see what that looks like. And this image that I'm displaying kind of puts in perspective what's believed to be happening, which is we may be getting to a point where more people are buying than selling, which might encourage a bull run, which would put me on track for my Q3 prediction. And if that happens, we have to see long term what happens to all the other cryptocurrencies, because of course all of them's price is based on Bitcoin at the end of the day. But the other byproduct of this, there's the mining, right? So the ASIC machines, they're actually being fire sold. I saw machines that used to go for like $1,200 and they're down to like $500. I still can't make the ROI work because when you try to, because the ROI has to take into account not just your electric bill, but also how much profit you can expect to make, and mining profits are way down. I actually turned off my unminable because it wasn't profitable because the algorithms have changed. So I turned it off. It didn't make any sense. But the ASIC machines, which normally are for Bitcoin, but there's other ones for other types of tokens, they're being fire sold. And there's people that are scooping those up and they're setting up their own little personal mining farms to take advantage of the low prices of the hardware in anticipation of the bull run. Because now Bitcoin's going to get harder to mine, we know that, and with Ethereum, they're moving away from proof of work, so that'll nullify that one. But there are other tokens that keep proof of work because they believe that proof of work is more secure than proof of stake. So there's always going to be some element of mining. It simply won't be necessarily around the Ethereum type tokens and the proof of stake tokens and all those. So it's going to change, obviously. Many of the mining companies have been laying people off, cutting people, staff. So we have to see what that all turns into. But I'm just calling out for those interested. Mining machines are at an all-time low right now. So if you want to get into mining of cryptocurrency without the graphics card, and graphics cards are rock bottom, but graphics cards can only go so far, and then NVIDIA is nerfing them. So if you want to get into the hardcore mining, you might consider an ASIC machine. They're going for dirt cheap right now. If that's of interest, is just make sure the ROI works for you, because I couldn't make the numbers work. It would take me, I think it estimated 3 years to get an ROI on the device, which isn't going to work for me, brother. Of course, the big news is Elon Musk. He's ducking. He's backing out. Everybody's all jumping on his case. Everybody's angry at him. Some people predicted it might happen. I have a different take. So here's what's happening here. Elon has been digging in, trying to understand who are the true users here, because his bid was based on the true user count, which goes to profitability. He doesn't make any money off of bots. He doesn't make any money off fake accounts. He doesn't make any money off dead accounts. He doesn't make any money unless it's an active user of the service. And so he has been digging in to try to figure out what is going on with this. who are the real users and are your bot counts accurate? And he has found some data that leads him to think that the data that was presented as far as bot counts was misrepresented, and there are actually more bots on the system than he said. Now, if you're on Twitter, man, you understand there's more bots than they say. We know that. Anytime you tweet something and you put certain terms in there, a bot is going to respond to you with some garbage that's basically spamming an advertisement about some garbage cryptocurrency. It happens every time. And usually it's around certain hashtags: crypto, cryptocurrency, rug pull, honeypot. Certain ones will trigger. And trust me, I know the mechanics on how to do it. I could do it if I wanted. I'm ethical. I don't want to do that. But I know how they're doing it. There's multiple tools to do it. And they're not going to stop it from the tools because the tools don't know. They're just tools. So it has to be Twitter that filters it out. There's an easy way to filter it out. There's a very easy way to filter it out. Number one, if you have it set up to where anybody can respond, which is the default way of doing it, anybody can respond, including the bots. Well, the problem is, why are you allowing anybody to respond fresh out of the gate? What I'd rather see, which ties to the whole editing of tweets, I'd rather see that there's a timeout, basically some sort of cooling period where you cannot respond for a period of 5 minutes. At that point, almost every tool I can think of is going to bomb. They're going to crap out, and then they'll have to do a quote reply. And the quote reply is better because at least with the quote reply, you get the mention, but it's not part of your thread. They could do it. They don't want to. But that's what I do on mine. I just make sure it's set that only people can respond are people that follow me. They can respond all I care to because they follow me. And then whoever's mentioned can respond as well. And then the bots can't, they'll like it. They can like it. I'll take the like. That's cool. But you can't respond and you can't jack up my thread. Twitter could just simply change the default. There's a cooling off period. You can't just instantly respond. And you know what that's also going to do? That's going to stop the people that get triggered off of certain tweets. Like I was watching this business over here there was some guy, he talked about some coach and he won some case about taking prayer after the game or some nonsense. And there was a responder and a bunch of responses come through that just are attacking this guy. There should not be this prayer. And you can tell they're like 1 minute after the thing. They didn't read the article. They didn't do that. They're just triggered, right? This other guy, he responds and says, well, I'm already pissed off because, that's not the intent of the post game. The intent of the post game is to go neener and taunt your opponent and show them they're a failure. And he's embracing mediocrity. Perfect tweet. Excellent. Nobody got it. He gets attacked because that guy, they don't get it. They're not reading because nobody has a sense of humor any day anymore. So I like the cool off period. It's like, okay, let the tweet marinate for about 5 minutes. You can't do anything to respond to that tweet for 5 minutes at all. So you can take the time to think about it. Then introduce the ability to edit it right between that 5 minute period, only within the 5 minute period, but it allows a cooling off period for people to actually stop and think. And in most cases, the so-called trolls will go off elsewhere and do something else, which is what we want. We don't want them wasting people's time, in my opinion. Anyway, so then because of this, Elon backs out because he says, you're misrepresenting the bot counts and that's not good. And I'm not going to pay for that rate. That's an important term. The board says, nope, that's not going to work for us, brother. And we're going to make him go through with it. We're going to make him pay the money. We're taking it to court in Delaware. We're going to make this work. Well, the thing is, this from the beginning was strategic. There was a couple of people that called it out. And they said that what Elon's probably going to try to do is use this to negotiate paying a lower price for the same acquisition if he can prove the data was misrepresented, that there actually were more bots. Under what I promised of the 44 billion, it was under these assumptions, A, B, C, D, E. You failed D, C, E. Okay, I'm giving you a new bid, and I want the court to force them that they must consider the new bid because they misrepresented this data per the contract. Now, here's the downside. Social media gets involved, and they misrepresent what happened. They misrepresent it as, hey, he backed out of the deal. He just backed out of the deal. He hasn't backed out of the deal. He backed out of the bid. He said, I'm not paying you $44 billion. That's not going to happen because this is misrepresented. You can't, no, I'm not doing that. Some of the money he was trying to pull was coming from other sources that it wasn't like liquid funds. He didn't have the money on hand. He was borrowing a lot of it. And he's answerable and accountable to the people he's borrowing money from. And so he wants the data to be clean. So that's why he was trying to probe and figure out the bots, and then everybody's calling him a fudder, saying, "No, it's not." Anybody who's on Twitter that's honest with themselves knows there's a garbage amount of spam all over that thing, and they don't want to enforce it. We know that, especially if you're in cryptocurrency. We know that. So it's factual that spam is a thing, garbage accounts are a thing, dead accounts are a thing. It's all factual. We don't have specific numbers. Having it go to court makes it discoverable, and we can hopefully learn a little bit more and educate people that are being triggered off of him withdrawing off the thing. What I'd like to see happen is I'd like to see him prove in a court, no, this is garbage. You got like roughly 30% of your accounts are all fake and phony and bullshit. And what we want is I want a bid of about half what I offered. I'll still buy it, but I'm only paying you $22 billion, not $44 billion, because you have this garbage. Now what? And then have the judge say, you need to consider that offer because it's true. You lied about that's what I'd like to see happen. What I suspect will happen is that the court is going to rule in favor of Twitter, and they're going to say, no, if you want to do it, pay the $44 billion and then fix it. That's my theory of what they're going to do. And if I know Elon, and I don't, but if I did, he'd probably say, well, then I'll just walk away from the deal and go on focus on Tesla because Tesla needs his help anyway. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that he's able to put the data up, prove it, say, no, this is all jacked up and we need to do something different and better because I'm not paying $44 billion. I'm happy to pay half, but I'm not paying the full price because they lied. I hope that's the case, but it's Twitter. Who knows? In positive news, I have been a fervent critic of Zelle. As somebody who's been dealing with banks for a long time, I like the old ACH. I just don't like that they misuse it. I think they abuse it. I think they don't do it the way they should. I also like the wire transfers. I don't like that they rip you off and charge you for what's basically a digital thing. But I've never been a fan of Zelle. And the reason I'm not a fan of Zelle and PayPal and Cash App and all these other garbages is because every last one of them, in their terms, will say, something to the line of, we maintain the rights to block access to your money. We can take your money, we can block it, we can hold the transfer, we can just hold it back, and then a human has to look at it. And usually that takes weeks because there's so many customers and they won't let your funds go. So if you're trying to do it to pay a bill or something, you're screwed. ACH, almost never, unless you're over a certain amount. And even then, I've sent thousands to ACH and never had a problem. Wire transfers, unless you send super big amounts or international, never a problem because it's based in the Check 21 standard and the banking standard and such. There's no reason to do it because unless if they see a pattern that is abnormal, and even if they did, most of them will just block you. They'll just say, okay, we're not going to let you do it. You need to come into a branch and then we'll help you, right? With Zelle and PayPal and Cash App and Venmo and all these, they'll just say, yeah, go ahead and set up an account and you're brand new. Great. Okay, make a deposit. Great. You got your money. Go ahead and send the transfer. We flagged your account and we got to review this. Give us 3 to 5 business days to take a look at it. Then we'll contact you and tell you what's wrong. And then, so meanwhile, your bill's due. You can't do anything on it. 3 to 5 days passes, you get some template email that says, thank you for being a customer. We appreciate it. You know, we had some concerns about your ID. We need to verify your identity. Can you send us a copy of your ID? And can you send us a copy of a utility bill and something to prove your mailing address and something to prove this? And then you send it, say, and then they hold it for another 3 to 5 days because it's all humans. So now it's 10 days out. They may or may not release it. PayPal's notorious for this. Before PayPal was PayPal, they used to be X.com. X.com was basically a bank, and it was awesome. When PayPal comes in, PayPal starts introducing this on eBay. When PayPal and eBay were hand in hand, they would do it where the PayPal transaction would just get blocked. No real reason given. We just blocked it. We got to review it, and they hold the funds sometimes for a month or more. So then a seller sells product, and they make all this money, and then their account just gets blocked out of thin air. No real reason given. Was a big fiasco. I'm pretty sure it's still a problem because all of them have that same term. We can block your account for whenever we feel like it. So then Zelle, all of the different major banks are starting to introduce Zelle as an alternate way to transfer funds because it's instant as opposed to ACH. Even though under the hood, Zelle is still using the same framework as ACH, they're doing it instant They're getting rid of some of the steps that are involved in vetting the transaction. So then Democratic senators get involved because there had been a pattern of payments made via Zelle, which is irrelevant, but that's their argument, to scammers. And in this case, these were not intentional. Like the person got cheated. They were told, send money via Zelle, and then the money was taken and run with it. Well, the thing is, part of this is due diligence, right? Because if you had sent in an ACH, you can call it back the same day, but that's assuming that you do it same day. Or if it's a Saturday, you can call it back until the just before Monday. Or if it's a Friday afternoon, you can call it back pretty much all over the weekend. If you knew about it. Most of these, you're not going to know about it the same day that it's a scam. You're not going to know it's a scam until sometimes days or weeks later. So it didn't matter that it's Zelle. Now, I want to level set. The fact that Zelle is meaningless, it doesn't mean anything. The real point here is that people are getting cheated where they're being told, send a Zelle payment over to here. These Democratic senators are expecting the banks behind Zelle to intervene and block it, but they can't know that. And the fact that Zelle and similar services are doing instant, they're taking away some of those layers that would have helped intercept it and fall it back. Well, if you take that away, Zelle has no sales pitch. At that point, you can use standard ACH, and that's what we should have done. But Zelle sold itself on the immediacy of a transaction. Them getting involved, the Democrat senators, here's the thing. Again, it does not matter that it's Zelle. The bottom line is, what they want to do is they want that delay in the process to intervene. If the person had sent a wire transfer, it's the same problem. Wire is essentially immediate. There's some people looking at it, but it's essentially immediate. It's the same risk. It's the same problem. It doesn't solve anything. So this, I'm saying, is a lot of okie doke. It's showmanship. They're trying to show out, to pretend like they're doing a job, to justify their positions in anticipation of regulation around cryptocurrency because of the expected blowout in November. That's what that is. This is all for show. The summary, when you transfer money from A to B, there are multiple ways to do it. It doesn't matter which way you chose. You can still be scammed in any one of them, including sending a check in the mail. None of it matters. So them going after Zelle, I like it because I think Zelle is garbage. However, I'm saying that it's not just a Zelle issue. The scam is a different root cause, and them chasing this isn't going to solve anything or make anybody any safer. Instead, it's just going to add to more regulation that's more costly to the people who are doing it right, which is the 99%. What I do want to see, in my mind, is that we get to where we don't need dedicated separate exchanges, the Coinbases of the world. What I would like to see is that we are able to do fiat conversions without depending on somebody or something else. That's what we lack. Because if you are able to do that, as somebody who's getting into cryptocurrency, we can introduce those warnings at that point. For you getting your money into this to send somewhere else, we're going to put this block in front of you and just make sure you understand. If you're sending some money to somebody else, if you're sending some crypto to somebody else, if you're buying crypto, whatever that is, if you're doing that, I want to just warn you, and I want you to check a box on each one of these that says you understand that by doing these actions, I could get ripped off. And if you choose to proceed because you're a gambler like Kenny Rogers, cool, we'll let you do it. That way we don't have the excuse on the back end, but they ripped me off. I mean, I got scammed. They took my money. Look, you said you agreed to these. Well, I didn't read it. That's your problem. Read it, learn it, and move on. That does not need a regulatory banner. It needs people being ethical to put that in front of the transaction, which is what we don't do. We don't put that disclaimer in front of the transaction. So we put exchanges in front of the people. The exchange, all of them do it differently, which makes it harder to do the work. And they're the only way to get to fiat. I don't support that at all. With money transfers, going after Zelle, again, it's whack-a-mole because it's not a Zelle issue. It's an issue with not giving that front end attestation to force people to say, do you understand that by doing this, this XYZ is going to happen? I understand, like we do everywhere else. That's smart regulation. Smart regulation, not what they're trying to do, which is, you know what, Zelle, you need to act like the ACH, which it is ACH, which negates the need for Zelle, which kills a whole business. I don't mind seeing Zelle die, but I know there are people that use it. I'd rather see smart regulation that simply puts the attestation in front of people and makes people accountable for that decision, which we don't do, which means they're easier to scam them because we don't tell them and warn them because there are unethical people out there. Long term, I think garbage like this, and the reason I'm talking about it here, remember, the whole reason that this came about is because people got scammed. Well, what happens in cryptocurrency? You send something from wallet A to wallet B, you can't get that back. Okay, that's what the government wants to do. They want to introduce a delay, and there's a block, and there's humans reviewing it, and if they don't like it, you have to give your ID and give a copy of utility bill, because they're trying to keep you safe. And so it's no longer the ease of sending money to somebody. It's no longer ease of receiving from somebody. There's all these hoops, just like in the banking system. This is, and people didn't believe me when I said, if you were one of those who advocated for required inoculation during 2021, you set the precedent for them saying, okay, well then if they're okay with us governing their body over here, they must be okay governing their body over here. So we'll just get rid of Roe v. Wade. It's all the same thing. That's what banking is. Crypto, they see it as banking. So let's create this over here and apply it over in the crypto world. Create it here, apply it here. Create it here, apply it here to make them the same thing, which makes this no value. That's the way that governments work. They want it to work the way they're comfortable. That's not going to make cryptocurrency successful. It's going to destroy it, just like we destroyed fiat for the same reasons. Because when fiat decoupled in US from gold, what happened? It trashed. And that's what happens. And that's what I don't want to see. And hopefully we don't see, but I suspect that we will see. We'll have to see. That's all I have. I got them a whole list. That was pretty cool. I don't know if I have anybody here live. If I do, if you have any questions, please do leave them and I will take a look. But yeah, I got them a whole list here. Please do leave them in the chat and I will take a look. Meanwhile, I'm about to go over here. And I got to give major kudos to freaking Twitch because it just works. It just works. It doesn't have any issues. It doesn't break. It doesn't bomb. It doesn't trash. It doesn't go down. It just works. It's perfect. I think it's great. All right. No comments in Twitch. That's cool. No comments in YouTube chat. That's good. Not that I see anyway. That's good. For those who are listening to this after the fact, I appreciate you doing so. You may see a temporary blip in the middle because YouTube literally stopped. YouTube stopped in the middle of the stream. And I'm not sure why. It basically started rejecting my stream for no reason. It didn't have a problem. It just stopped. It stopped accepting the stream. I had to restart it. It's been fine since. But you may see a temporary blip in the middle. And that's not my side. That's them. They stopped receiving the stream. And I don't know why. And I restarted. Hadn't had an issue since. That's all YouTube. And I don't know. Whatever. And then I've got a backup recorded. So I'm good to go there. Because I don't trust YouTube anymore. I cannot do so. Cool. Looks like that's all we got. I'm going to dial out and get some food because I'm starving as all get out. And this will be posted here. Well, obviously to YouTube the moment I stop streaming. I don't think that we are out of the bear right now. I still anticipate third quarter, but I think it's too early. I think we got some time to go yet. And we have to wait and see how long that's going to take because I'm not 100% sure exactly what's going to happen. And I think we'll be in a good spot once we get past some of these initial hurdles of the sell pressure pieces. But I also think crypto has to grow up. We can't do the childish business of 2021. I guess what got us in this spot in the first place. We got to get better at what we do, but I don't think the answer is to turn everything into a bank either. So we'll have to wait and see. Anyhow, Thank you for those dialed in. Thank you for those listening after the fact. Apologize for whatever YouTube tripped out on in the middle. Everything else seemed like it was fine. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled hardware starting next week as I get my camera back in order. And we will have this uploaded to our back-end sources here shortly.